All right, welcome everybody to Conversations and Situations. I am Sheila the Heartbeat, and I'll let everybody else, into our other guests, our host, introduce themselves, and then I'll come back and introduce our special guest for the evening.
Welcome back. Welcome back to your wonderful Wednesday afternoons. It's your boy, IQ.
And you know, it's your girl, Posh K, checking in. Hope you guys are watching. We have some good things today to talk about. You sure gonna want to listen.
Interesting conversation. All right, so today, our special guest is the proud parents of 7 kids that have called him dad over the years. He and his wife, Amanda, have fostered almost 20 children over the last decade, and they adopted 4 of those kids. They've also been known to say that their experiences with fostering and adopting children has been one of the most formative and impactful experiences of their adult lives. Our guest today, he and his wife, are also the owner of a podcast called Foster Care, an Unparalleled Journey. So help me welcome today our guest, Mr. Jason Palmer.
Well, it's great to be here, guys. Thanks.
I've been waiting to use that. So welcome, Jason. Welcome to Conversations and Situations. We're excited to have you.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get into this whole adopted and foster care thing. First of all, let me just say the biggest place in my heart is for kids who are not under the care of an adult, just like who are in foster care and adopt. That is the one place in my heart that is the biggest thing for me. So I'm really excited, first of all, to have you on the show, but I'm more excited that you're doing the work. So I thank you, first of all, for just doing the work behind the scenes.
Yes.
Oh, I've gained more out of it than I'll ever give. That's been one of the big lessons I've learned is I will get more than I can possibly give. I can try not give it, but these kids teach me so much.
Absolutely. Let's kind of start at the beginning. So let's start with you and your wife. How long have you guys been married?
Well, you're gonna get me in trouble now. I gotta think. I think we've been married for about 9.5 years. We've been together for 20 years, though.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Right.
We've been together for a long time.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. What about, do you guys have kids or your own biological kids?
All right. Now this gets messy. This gets real messy. My wife had a half-sister with her mom.
Hold on a second.
So my wife had a half-sister. They shared a mom.
Okay.
Right. Now, that was Arissa. I'm sorry. That was Angela. No, that was Arissa. Ooh, I'm going to get so confused here. Yeah. Now, she shared a half-sister with her dad. And her name was Angela. All right. Now, Angela will come back into the story. But her half-sister is Arissa. Now, her mom had a lot of addiction issues. And everybody that I know knows somebody who's been through some addiction issues.
Yeah.
Her mom has, this ain't 100% true, but it's pretty close. I'm certain she's been high since around 1979. Yeah. And everybody has some experience like that. And so when Arissa came along, that didn't change anything. And so Arissa came into our house. And she was raised in our house for a lot of years. It was technically speaking my sister-in-law, kind of half sister-in-law. I think, yeah, maybe something like that. But she called me daddy. You know, she lived in my house. I bought food for her. I put clothes on her back. She went to school at my house. She called me daddy. She called my wife mama. And we had her until the day we lost her about 5 years ago. We actually just passed the 5-year anniversary, July 27th. She had a nasty disease called hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis. And you never want to be able to say that name that easily. Because that was hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis.
Wow.
Yeah. Have y'all ever seen the TV show House?
I have.
Okay. There's an episode about a cytosis episode on there. It's not specifically that one, but he actually discussed that disease in one of them. And just so you know, his episodes are actually medically pretty dang accurate. Once you live that experience, the show's not as entertaining. It takes a whole different turn. But that was our oldest daughter. She called me daddy. She called my wife mama. And so that, she was just part of our tribe. She's part of our family. She's one of the people I was willing to kill for, one of the people I was willing to live for. So she was ours. Now,
Right.
the next son was actually my wife's son, was my stepson.
Okay.
She came to the marriage with him. His daddy kind of just disappeared. And so when I met her, he was there, and we were just together. And that was, he was about 2 years old. So he just called me daddy, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go. And then we had one child together. We have one biological child, and that's Austin. He is 19 years old now. Yeah, he's 19, about to turn 20. And then the 4 younger ones that we have in the house, Deshaun is 14, going on 37. Janiyah is 13, going on 42.
Right.
Then I have a 6-year-old that we call Turtle. Now, I mentioned Arissa's half-sister, Angela.
Yes.
That was Turtle's biological mama.
Okay.
So my sister and this girl were raised around each other. A lot of drugs, a lot of addiction in that family. And she kind of lost most everything in her life to addiction. And eventually she lost her child, and we were able to take him. So if you listen to our podcast all the way back to some of the original episodes was Standing with Turtle. I think there was about 6 episodes in there telling his story. His story's deep, real deep. I mean, this baby, when he came into care, the judge was asking us what we thought, and I said he needs a drug test and he needs a hair follicle test, because if she had a chance, she'd run a clean-out kit through him. I promise you. I know he's won, but that happened if she had time. And his hair follicle came back positive at 1 for weed, coke, heroin, meth, and oxys.
Oh.
Oh.
So this boy was like a walking, addict, and at 1 when he came into our house.
Right.
Over the long term, we were able to adopt him as well. And then while our daughter was sick, right before she got sick, actually, we got placement of a baby who was born addicted to methamphetamines. He spent his first 11 days on a methadone wean down, and he came home from the hospital and went to a family member, to an uncle or something. He said, "Whoa, I cannot handle this." I mean, if you've seen somebody withdrawn off of methamphetamines, that's tough. If you've seen an infant withdrawn off of methamphetamines, that's even tougher. I mean, he would curl up with me at night and just twitch and shake, and he twitched so hard he'd wake himself up, so he couldn't get a good night's sleep. But we eventually had to get those little infant wraps, and I'd wrap him up so tight I was worried about him being able to breathe, just so when he twitched, his whole body wouldn't shake, it wouldn't wake him up.
Right.
And he now, to this day, still answers to the name Twitch.
Oh.
But that's the ones that we have that we call our own. And right now we have one more little girl staying with us. For the moment, she's waiting on a family placement to come through out of state, and so we're just providing a place for that right now. And right now, my wife is out picking up our daughter, and she took our godson with us, who is now 4 months old, I think. He's hanging out with us this evening just because his mama drops him off, and my wife loves babies. So he comes over all the time. So our house is full of these kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Been fostering and adopting kids for a long time, even unofficially. When you go back to your wife's stepsister, and I'm pretty
Half
sure.
sister.
Yes, half sister.
Don't worry, I'm confused about it too, and I lived it.
I'll get it right. So I do know that a lot of people do know the difference, but there may be someone who's watching who may not know the difference between foster care and adoption. So can you kind of give us a slight explanation of the difference between the two?
Okay, Arissa came to us through just a family member in need. There was no state involvement. There was nothing. She was never technically officially adopted. Her mom wouldn't allow that. She wanted some control in that. So she was never officially adopted. She just lived in our house. We took her to school. We took care of things. We took care of all that stuff. That was just what we did. Now, adoption and foster care is kind of the two worlds that we're really deep into. Foster care is where somebody messes up in their life. I mean, we've all messed up. Don't get me wrong. I ain't trying to talk bad on anybody, but we've all messed up. And when you've done something dumb enough and the law got involved and they go, "Hey, you can't take every kid acting like that." You're deep in an addiction. And if you're addicted to heroin, it's tough to take care of a kid. I promise you, it's tough to take care of a kid.
It's tough to take care of yourself on there.
Yeah. So when the cops pick you up, and this was her story. I mean, she was living. Y'all have probably heard of Ferguson, Missouri, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll just let you in on a little secret. Ferguson's a nice part of town. I mean, I'm in St. Louis all the time. I'm in parts of St. Louis that you don't see on the news for a reason, because the news van won't go down there. Yeah, I'm in a lot. That's where she was living down there, right? So the state got involved in her life because of some mistakes she made, and they said, you can't raise a kid like this. You don't have a home. You have an addiction. You got warrants out. She had all these different issues. So he came into foster care, which is where the state says, hey, you can't take care of your kid safely. We know this, so we're going to put this kid somewhere where he'll be safe while you get your stuff together. Now we'll make a plan, and you can get your stuff together, and follow that plan. You work your plan, and you get your child back. That happens so rarely. It just breaks my heart. We did talk to one lady a while back who her name was Amy, and Amy was a full-blown meth dealer. She tells her whole story about when the cops kicked the door in, they found $10,000 worth of meth in her coat pocket, right? So she was a full-blown dealer, and she walked her plan. She got sober, she got clean, she did everything she needed to do, and she got her kids back. Eventually, she did everything she needed to do, and the state brought the kids back to her and said, "Here you go, here's your kids." And she just posted here a while back, celebrating 3 years clean and sober. She's working 2 jobs. She's taking care of her babies. Like, she's got a family, and she's walking the walk and being a mom. And that's what foster care is supposed to do.
Whoa. It's like a temporary placement.
That's it. It's a place to come, put a kid, and keep them safe while mama and dad is trying to get their stuff together.
Right.
Now, federal law came into – I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and you haven't gotten there yet. Adoption, we haven't gotten there.
Well, and federal law had kicked in here a while back. It says if your kid's in foster care for any 15 months out of 22 rolling consecutive months. So in the last 22 months, if they were in January and then out February, and you add all the months up they were in, it's 15 months. The state's required by law to file a termination of parental rights because you're not walking your plan. You're not getting your stuff together. And they've had kids who just languish in foster care for their entire lives. So once they terminate parental rights, they have that hearing, and if they go, hey, she's finally kicking around, she's getting the stuff, she's doing what's right, they'll give her some more time. But if not, they'll terminate the parental rights. And once they do that, a child can be adopted. Now, once they're adopted, they come, they're legally yours. The kids I have adopted are legally mine. I'm responsible for their mistakes. I'm responsible for feeding them, clothing them, taking care. There's no giving back, right? As much as kids might try and make you think that sometimes.
Definitely no return policy.
Exactly. There's a no return policy, and they're yours forever. And whether you change names or not, that's all up to you and the kids and all that conversation. As a matter of fact, we've had one child who has actually talked to us about, thinking about wanting to take his name back to his original birth name. We really haven't talked that much about it, but if that's something he wants, that's something we're going to have to talk about, because if that's his true desires, I mean, what's in a name, right? I mean, you're not going to make me cry too hard. But, we made the decision when they came into our house, because they were super young. They're like 3 and 4. And at that age, life is just simpler if last names match.
It's just give us
Now, 10 years later, we know that it's not that complicated with different last names. We can handle it.
Let me ask you this, Jason. When you have children that comes into your house as a foster child, and they're there temporarily, as you were just saying, for the parent to kind of get themselves together. Once they get themselves together and you have to give the child back, is it hard to depart at that time? Like, I would assume you've grown feelings for this child, and they have probably for you as well. And although I know kids want to always default to parents, and they don't care how bad the parent is or what the parent has going on. But for the parent, for the adoptive or foster care parents, is it hard to let go at that time?
I smile because I'm gonna go ahead and stay clothed here for the moment. But right here over my chest, I have a picture of baby Carl. Carl was with, that's not his birth name. It's just a nickname. He picked up, all our kids end up with nicknames. But baby Carl is tattooed on me right here. And when he left, man, it broke something in our family. And it was tough. I couldn't buy a smile in my house for 2 months. After he left, we had a couple dollars in the bank, and we had a weekend coming up where I had an extra day off. And I looked at my wife and said, we got to get to town. We got to do something. We got to get away from this. Everybody was just so sad. And we picked up and Memphis is about 5 hours from here. And we just drove down to Memphis and had a weekend down there and walked around. They had a big street festival going on. We just hung out in Memphis for a couple of days just to get away from it.
How old was he?
Down on Beale Street.
That's it.
How old was he?
Carl
Jason?
was 3 days old when he come to our house, and he stayed with us until just before his first birthday.
Oh,
Were
Man.
you able to get in contact again with foster kids after they've left your home?
Some parents are able to, but I mean, let's be honest. If you had a baby who was put in foster care and he stayed somewhere for a year or two, but he was too young to remember it, would you ever want to tell him? No parent
Yeah.
Not really.
will tell that kid that. So yeah,
right.
there's no real connection there. Over here on this side, I've got 2 more kids tattooed on me. They were with us for a year and a half, and that was a super special. I mean, that was a real close connection with those kids as well. And
Yeah.
those kids, we're still not connected to them, but I ain't gonna lie. I might stalk a Facebook page every now and then, just watch them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a look.
Just
And
the
see if they're
smile.
doing the right thing, if they're being okay. I can understand that. Hmm.
Yeah, because
So-
their mama was a crazy woman. All right, I'm just gonna throw that out there and be real honest. She had a lot of mental health issues. Like her abuse case was one of the worst cases of abuse they had seen in our county in over a decade. I don't know if he has any rights. Dad got his life straight. He got a job. He got promoted. He got a place. He got everything straightened up. He took his kids in. They moved into this new place, and he's raising them. And I can see the pictures on Facebook, and I see him smile. And it just
Oh,
warms my heart to see that.
Yeah.
I still look at it sometimes and think, man, I didn't think that's the way it was going to go. I didn't think he was going to straighten out, because he started off into the meth, right? He started
Right.
off in the methamphetamines a little bit, and that's a bad sign. And then he turned it around. And so I'm terribly happy for the kids, because you know, Sheila, you're right. What you say, every child wants nothing more than their mom and dad to love them enough to take care of them. That's the one thing a kid wants.
Yeah.
And you know, if they can have that, that's a most beneficial thing for their ability to grow up. But if they can't, we work for the second best. But man, if he's going to straighten up and take care of his kids, that's the best thing for him. And so, as much as it hurt to let them go, you know, it's the best thing for him. So I just sit back and I smile, just like you said, man, smile through the pain. That's what I do. I just the pain's
So-
there.
So I have a question, right? First, let me explain. Like I said, I have 4 children, but until recently, which was maybe 3 years ago, there was only 3 children, until I found out about one that was born prior to my marriage or my divorce, but prior to my marriage. So then there was 4. So how do you go about starting the comfort process after you bring a new child into the house?
mm.
Do you mean the comfort process for your children, or for the child coming in?
Oh no, for the child well, both actually, because she's my oldest daughter now. My girls are the oldest and the youngest, and even though she just came into the family, her and my daughter, they like locked together like that fast. But it's still kind of awkward between her and the boys. My boys are 7 and 13. The girls are 4 and 16.
Well, I have bad news for you about boys at that age. Is there's this whole process that happens. They call, like, puberty's coming on, and there's this testosterone wash over half the brain, and it causes all this brain damage, and they become like
Weird.
unrecognizable animals
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah,
And
my
so that's going to be
13-year-old.
tough. Mm-hmm.
And I look at him sometimes, and he's not your average kid. He has a very above average intelligence. But like recently, he's just morphed into this person, and sometimes I just look at him like this. Who are you?
I know that look.
Like, he's just morphed into this person one day. One day, this new person just showed up, and I'm like,
I know that look. I see that look in my mirror all the time.
I see the changes too.
man.
It comes all the time, but as far as, you know, the comfort process, honestly, we're struggling through some of that. My daughter, she's 13. She doesn't do well with girls coming in. That's been something we found. We've only had a handful of girls who come to our house,
Wow.
primarily boys, and man,
It's usually the boys that are territorial.
Lord have mercy. You
But a
ain't
girl?
seen anything like the wrath of a 13-year-old girl. I mean,
I mean,
So,
she's a
so-
tough one. She already wants to play football. She's not having it.
is the girls a daddy girl or a mama's girl?
You know, that's interesting. She's a real quiet girl. And her and I will sit and dive off into deep conversations sometimes, and it's amazing when we're able to do that. And every now and then she'll get in the car, and her and mom will go out and do like the shopping and all the girl stuff. But honestly, I think, you know, I've been really connected with especially those two middle kids, more so because of the trauma they experienced at a young age. And, you know, we all come to this world with our own buckets of trauma. And you get in a house like this, and we try and put it all into one bucket, and it just spills all over the place. You know,
Right.
I was raised in a cult, okay, a religious cult. So I've had my own buckets of trauma, and I've learned how to take some deep breaths and find my calming place. Just last night, we had kind of what could have been a real potential blow up. I mean, we were lighting sticks of dynamite on fire and throwing them back and forth practically in this house. You know, it was about to go crazy. And so I sit down in this chair here, get myself down on eye level, and I lower my voice, and I breathe deep, slow my cadence, and I talk. And we have those conversations, and I think about breaking something later.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I bring that real quiet in, and that's one of the things she said to me in the past is, Dad, I really like talking to you because when things are really crazy, you help calm it down. It's something she's really learned to appreciate because she's been through real trauma.
Right.
Her and her brother, when the birth family they came from, you know, they witnessed their father murdered.
Oh my
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Does she remember that?
She doesn't. He did. I don't think he remembers so much of it anymore because she was only about 1.5, and he was about a little over 3. So he had a lot of real vivid memories. As a matter of fact, that led to some night terrors for a long time. And you know, the guy with the green hair and yeah, just look up the mug shots and suddenly I understand everything, right? But it was, and even if she doesn't remember it, the book out there I read, it's called, I think, The Body Remembers or The Brain Remembers, something like that. The trauma that you go through in early childhood that you don't remember. Thank God we don't remember the early childhood stuff, but the body remembers it. And those pieces of trauma still exist in the brain. And so we have to work through that. And so that's something that we've been working through a lot, and just helping her work through some of those traumas has really helped her calm that down a lot. Now, when a boy comes into the house, for whatever reason, everybody just tends to get along better. I don't know what it is. So, and honestly, you'd be amazed how easy it is to calm some of these kids down. The little boy right here, almost messed up and said his name. We'll just call him A. When A came to our house, A was 3 years old, right? He had 3 words in his vocabulary. It was cup, milk, and cow. That's the only 3 words this 3-year-old knew. And he was terrified of the world. Do you know how I made him my best friend in the world? I made him a cup of water. Come to find out, his mama would give him 1 cup of water to last all day, and that's if he was good. Good according to her. Yeah.
What?
He was his little sister was 1.5 years younger than him, and he was smaller than her. She'd been starving him, withholding food, withholding water. This boy had been through so much, and so just figuring out where their traumas are and just giving a little bit of love in that place gives you that opportunity to really grow that relationship. So, and that's just so powerful.
What about the kids? Did they seem to get a bond with each other?
Eventually, this poor little girl with us right now, she comes from a single child family, and our house is not a child family. And so these kids are used to, I mean, it's like Thunderdome up around here. You know, they're, if you want to be in the middle of the room, people eyes on you, you got to be noisy and you know, everybody's got to look here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's used to that with no effort. So that's caused some struggle between them. But like my 5-year-old and her, she's 4. If you're not watching, they'll get along if they think nobody's watching. They'll actually play together and create a bond. And she'll probably be leaving here about 2 months, is my guess.
Yeah. Believe it or not, girls are attention seekers. they just seek attention for absolutely no reason. I don't know.
And you know, and when you have a child who didn't get that attention from their parents, that's only increased. And so that has created some real struggles, but at the same time, sometimes it creates incredible bonds. And when Carl come to our house, the funniest thing that you could ever imagine happened, I had 2 teenage boys who would come home from school and they would argue over who gets to hold the baby.
Oh wow.
Teenage boys, right? These aren't kids who want a whole baby, but like they just such an incredible bond that was built there.
Mhm.
How do you guys, as parents, how do you balance the if you have more than one child in a home at once? Like, how do you balance the time between them all? Do you guys have family nights, or how do y'all balance it?
We have wrestling matches.
Balance is a false. It's just a misnomer. It doesn't exist in our house.
Yeah, it's a myth. That's
Yeah,
a myth.
you've seen like Lady Justice holding the scale with two. Yeah, no, our scale has 17 different little pieces, and the weights are constantly. Yeah, there's no balance. We just,
No,
A question?
it's not.
Oh,
Go ahead.
So,
yeah, I was also gonna say we just do the best we can in the moment. That's all we can do most days.
Being there is just doing it. That is
enough.
yeah, I can tell you, like, being a parent is a continuous learning experience. It never stops. It teaches you something
I
every
can't-
minute of the day.
I can't wait to become a parent.
Yes, you
I
can.
cannot.
Just wait. Yes, you can. Take your time.
No, I can't.
You like that
I'm a
hair on your
dog
head?
dad now. I mean, that's
You
enough practice.
You
Even
like
with-
that hair on your head?
well, you still learning. You still learning and seeing new things all the time. So,
Yes. Okay, I have a question, Jason. So I take it that you guys have been doing, adoptions and foster cares for so long. Do you prefer to take in a child while they are younger or in their teenage years?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Younger. Take the
Of course,
younger.
younger.
ones.
Amen. Because and my wife will tell you, I am highly skilled at being able to get on the floor with some Hot Wheels and a little car mat, and man, we can take the car over to the park and take it over to the donut shop, and we can take it
Right.
over to the fire station. We can play cars and trucks like maniacs. I can be a 3-year-old in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Teenagers. I didn't
That's
like
different.
teenagers when I was a teenager.
And these new teenagers, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
They think they know everything. They already in their ways.
I'll let you know a little secret. We thought that too, though, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah, the only-
did.
Teenager is hard.
The only
Being a
difference
teenager
is
is really, really hard.
I have one teenager that thinks she knows everything, and then I have one teenager that actually does know everything.
Oh my gosh.
Because, boy, man, he is a different kind of smart.
That's
Yes,
because
that's King.
you has things.
Man,
Sheila.
My nice-
Sheila, he was saying that he knows everything. I said that's King.
King does know everything.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of experience with that, and I've learned that just all you can do sometimes is, do y'all remember the animated movie Madagascar?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, at the end of the movie, when all the animals they're getting ready to jump on the boat and take off, and the penguins are sitting on the beach, and one of them looks at the other and he says, "Should we tell them it's out of fuel?" And the leader of the penguin says, "Just smile and wave, boys. Just smile." That's what I do. That's what, these kids think they got everything. Sometimes if they ain't gonna hurt themselves, sometimes you just sit back and smile and wave. Let them do
And
their
let
thing, man.
Let it happen. I sit back and let it happen.
That there's something to allowing a kid to fail in a safe space.
Yep.
Let them
Yeah.
fail where you can reach down and be the safety net. And that's
My granddad would say, "Let him fall on his face on the carpet."
mm-hmm. Yeah. But we've learned so many lessons from these kids, and they have to learn some of those lessons the hard way. I love the one lesson we learned so well from our little girl. And this is what I call the wisdom of toddlers, right? Shortly after Janai and Deshaun had first come to our house, we sat down at dinner table one night, and I said, "Who wants to say blessing?" And she says, "I do." Her little voice peeps up. I'm like, "All right, cool. Go ahead, baby." She sits down, she folds her little hands, and I had a rough day at work that day, but I'm just a little bit aggravated and frustrated, but I just want to get to dinner. And she folds her hands and she goes, "Dear God, thank you that my new mommy and daddy haven't died yet. Amen."
Oh,
Oh.
I mean, you could have sucked the oxygen out the room.
Man,
Right.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking I had a rough day, right? And suddenly, like she handed me a bucket of perspective that said, "Hey,
Yeah.
right.
look here, pay attention."
Yeah.
And then several years later,
Heaping bucket of perspective.
several years later, when our oldest daughter ended up down at Children's Hospital and they was trying to figure out what's going on there. And I'll tell you what, one of the lessons I learned down there is it's the same thing, is that when you've had a bad day, anybody, if you had a bad day, it's life is just taking a dump on you, everything's sideways, nothing's fair. Man, take yourself to the local Children's Hospital, sit in the lobby and talk to the first precocious little 5-year-old kid who walks by with no hair. Your day ain't that bad.
Right.
It ain't that bad.
Right.
Until you have put your hand on your child's casket. Your day ain't that bad, man. You got things in this life that are good. Find those things.
Absolutely.
Chase those things. There's a light in that, man. You can change the world with that.
That's so true.
You just can't sit and finances are a struggle some days, but some days are not. I ain't gonna let that get me down, man. I tell guys all the time, you can't make me have a bad day. Nobody's allowed to give me a bad day. I've had my worst day already.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got good days ahead of me, and I got struggles. I get kids. Just today, I mean, apparently there was some other kind of thing happening in the house while I was gone. Kids and my wife were all busy butting heads, and everything's tough. Yeah, I walked into a tough situation when I got off of work today, but it ain't that bad.
Right.
No. It could be worse.
Yeah, you have to put
Could
everything.
be worse.
Jason, I do have
always do that.
one last question for you. Do you think that you were born for this, or do you think that you decided to be foster and an adoptive dad?
That's a good question.
That is a good
Honestly,
question.
I don't know that I would have done it without my wife. My wife was when our son that we had together was born. Actually, both the boys, when they were born, she hemorrhaged real bad when she was after the pregnancy, and hemorrhaged real bad, and the bleeding didn't stop. They got it stopped the first time. After the second time, they couldn't get it stopped. I mean, doctors and nurses running in with bags of blood, and I mean, it was a big deal, right? And so she ended up having to have an emergency partial hysterectomy in the middle of that surgery, or in the middle of that birth. So
Thank
she couldn't have
God.
any more kids.
Mm.
She's a woman who would have had a dozen if God would have let her.
Wow.
She had a real dark childhood as well. She should have been a foster kid, but she fell through the cracks, and she wanted to raise kids and do different. She wanted to be anything but what she grew up in. And so that's what she always wanted to be. And one day I'm riding down the road, and I told you I came out of a religious cult, right? So I'm trying to re-understand what spirituality is in my life. And I'm listening to this radio program. It's on one of the stations where they play a lot of the religious stuff. And if you're familiar with Dr. James Dobson, he's been around forever. I think he's off the radio now. But he was talking one day, and he said, if one family out of every third church in the United States would adopt one child, we would clear the foster system of all the kids waiting today.
That's
And
true.
And I thought, man, I kind of got self-righteous. And I'm like, all these religious people I grew up around, all these folks, they think they're so good and they're so high and mighty. And then kind of reaches down in my head and says, what are you doing, asshole?
Right.
I mean, well, God said that. I don't know if he's dropping the curse words, but that was me. I didn't go blame him. But that's what I heard, right? And I said, what am I doing? And that kind of began the thought process. And I was writing an editorial, a regular opinion article for the paper. And I went down I was looking for places to donate around Christmas time for charities and things that you could help kids locally and people locally. I went over to the children's division and talked to them, and the gal, I talked to her for like 2 minutes. And next thing I know, I got a handful of papers and stuff. And I come home, and my wife's eyes lit up. And I thought, yep, I think this is where we're going to go. Because we had talked about adoption in the past, and we talked about, this is China's one-child policy when that was going on, and the plight of the Chinese girls was so heartbreaking. And we looked at it, I'm like, that's like $30,000. I ain't got $30,000 to throw towards an adoption. We're barely making it here ourselves. And so this was something where she went, holy cow, we could actually do this. And as we talked together, honestly, I think it was something for her. It was a realization of what had always been a dream of hers. And for me, it was more or less a re-understanding of maybe a spirituality in my life that I said, there's a place here where I don't want to feel the need to go to church 3 times a week, or you're going to burn in hell. That's what I grew up in, real fundamentalist beliefs. I don't believe in that. That stuff is gone. But there's something out there that's bigger than us.
Right.
There's something out there that's better than us.
Definitely.
And we got to chase that good. And this is as soon as we looked at it, like we both kind of look at each other. It's like, yeah, something, I don't know what it is. I feel like this is something we should look into. And we've never looked back ever since. So I don't know if I was wired to do it. You know, I believe that each and every one of us has something in our hearts that sets our souls on fire.
I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. So
Yes.
I think that listening to your story and hearing your wife's situation, it seems like God kind of put you guys in there. And being that she went through what she went through, you know, if she was able to have kids, she would probably not really have thought about adopting.
Because I feel like
then,
either way that would have went, y'all still would have a house full of people.
yeah.
Like
Amen.
But I feel like he did it so that she could help other people, you know, because having her own kids, they will be okay. But the kids that are in foster care or something need help, you know, you guys are there. And that's awesome. I feel like that is a really good thing that you guys are doing. I
You
may
know,
have
Boss,
to.
and to Jason to thank you so much for doing the work behind the scene because, and what I mean behind the scene, because being a parent, foster, or even a biological parent, foster parent, adoptive parent is not necessarily behind the scene. But what I mean by that is you're not in the spotlight. You're not get some extra. I want to thank you for doing work like that behind the scenes.
Yes.
like I said, I have
And
So,
gained more from these kids than I'll ever be able to give. And to the point that maybe you're not in the spotlight, I'll say sometimes we are. You know, if you look at me, and I don't know if this will be video anywhere for somebody to see my face, but when people try to guess my racial background, I'm gonna just go ahead and ask, who knows where I come from? Because I'm curious.
I got nothing. I've been trying to figure it out, but I can't pick up an accent.
I can't
I
either.
got
But with
nothing.
last name's Homer, I would have thought American. I'm not sure.
Well, my family heritage supposedly has a lot of German in it. I don't think I look terribly German. The blonde hair, blue eye, fair skin, I don't think they would have taken me in. As a matter of fact, when we lived in the South and I was a little kid, I promise you, they did not believe in that. You know, and now my wife's maiden name is McClanahan, and she is about as Irish as you can get.
Irish.
Yeah, pale skin, red hair, you know, Irish as they come, right? And so that's the world we kind of grew up in. I just can't tell it, but I'm just ambiguously brown. I've done the 23andMe, and I'm gonna tell you that it says you're a little bit of everything, bud. You're all over. So that's all.
Ambiguously brown.
That's it. And so
I'll take it.
we walk around with this strange dynamic between the two of us. Now, three of the kids, I lose track. Three of the kids that we've adopted are mixed. And one of them is pale, like dang near see-through skin, pale and blonde hair, blue eyes, cute little dude. But you know, we have this real different racial dynamic look to us. And when we walk around, we get people who give responses to that a lot of times. And for my wife, she's always thankful for when I'm around because I just put on that mean hate me face and nobody comes over and messes. But she's had some issues. You know, we're in rural Missouri, and for the most part around here, we're in a little town out here that's incredibly racially diverse. But I'll tell you, about an hour and a half north of here, we found ourselves in a town that's still a sundown town, and that has led us to some real interesting experiences out there. You know, people get real upset and offended by that, and so the racial thing has been another piece of that we walk through. That's, I mean, unexpected because. I mean, honestly, between the two of us, we could care less. You know, I don't know who I'm supposed to be racially biased against because I don't know exactly what this is. I can't be mad at anybody because I don't know what I'm supposed to be mad at. So I just can't pull that off. But, you know, we've had so many weird experiences like that where we were in a little town and they literally put us in the back room. We went into a restaurant. They put us in the back room. They had to open up the door and set the seats down on the ground and turn the lights on. And there was plenty of room out front. But they put us in the back room. And I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, you see this, right? You're paying attention, right?
That's a whole nother subject we got to get into. I would love to know.
Part 2, I feel, with Mr. Jason.
But yeah, that was a whole wild experience. So we see all those different pieces, and I think that's something that people just need to be more comfortable with is the idea of, you know, even if transracial adoption is a whole huge topic, and I mean there's so many pieces of that. You know, let's just start with figure out hair care, right, and just walk from there, right?
Don't get me started.
Oh, hey, I feel you. I feel you. It wasn't until we had mixed kids in my house that I figured out how to tame the stuff on my head. I'm like, hey, look, this stuff works great on my head. This is awesome. You know, it's amazing how they actually make stuff out there that works. Now, my mom and dad never had any of that stuff for me to use. So I went through school with this mess on my head. I usually just shaved it off because it was easier. But there's so many pieces of that transracial foster thing that people get upset about. And we've caught some flack in some different places. And like I said, I'm a big dude, right? I'm 6'1", 260 pounds. And when I want to put on a real hate me face, I can exude some real hate, keep people down. And that's helpful. But she doesn't have that. Right? She doesn't have that. So she's had to deal with that full on without me a few times. And so people get so upset about that. And I'm like, man, there are so many things in this life worth being mad about. What somebody looks like, man, I can't get it. I just can't.
No, it just don't seem like it's worth the energy.
What I want to do is Jason, I want to make sure that we mention before we get out of here, I want to mention your podcast again. You can tell everybody a little bit about your podcast and tell people how they can get in touch with you guys and what can we do to help?
Certainly. We have a podcast called Foster Care: An Unparalleled Journey. The easiest way to find it, I mean, you can search that, but some dummy made a podcast name and didn't think how hard it was to spell unparalleled. Ain't none of you or me had to spell that word since high school, at least. One R, two R's, two L's, one I don't. Yeah. Easiest way to find it. We have a website called fostercarenation.com. And we talk to all kinds of people on there. We've got some people who are adults now who were in foster care when they were younger. We've talked to a couple foster children. We had a 14-year-old girl who told her story of sexual abuse when she was 6. I mean, this girl was strong. Like watching her talk to this story, it was cathartic for her.
Yeah.
And it was challenging to sit and watch her walk through that, but like she walked through it with an incredible level of bravery. And I talked about the lady Amy who came through as a parent who was messing up and straightened her life up and got out there and took care of her kids. And we've talked to a lot of psychologists and actually coming up here real soon, I'm going to record an episode, I think this coming weekend. I don't know if you guys remember Anthony Trucks. He played for the Steelers and Washington. And one other team, I can't remember who else it was. He was raised in foster care, and he's now motivational speaker, and he tells his story. And it's a deep story. I've heard him tell it once, and I'm like, man, you got to do this.
Oh my God, that whole.
Yeah, so we talked to all kinds of people who are attached to this somehow or another. All these people who are attached to foster care or adoption in one way or another, and just put that out there so people understand what's out there, how you can be involved, even if you're not going to jump into it and be a foster parent or an adoptive parent, how you can be involved and help people. And like I said, fostercarenation.com is the easiest way to find us. And if somebody has a story they want to tell, man, there's an email link on the website. Just hit it and shoot me a message. We're glad to talk to you about your stories because
Are y'all on Instagram or social media?
We are. I think I just changed the Instagram handle the other day to Foster Care Nation because it's easier to spell.
Okay.
And we have a Facebook page and a group called Foster Care: An Unparalleled Journey as well. And if you go to the website, there's a link tree button. Hit that. It's got all that on there, so you ain't got to type all that stuff in.
Yeah. Easy way. Well, we thank you so much for your time. It's been enlightening to
man.
And I just can't say how much I appreciate your work behind the scene. I just do so much.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on here so we can, have the opportunity to share this message out. And I'm sorry my wife couldn't make it tonight, but like I said, our godson was here and he is not terribly happy this evening. So the one thing he loves more than anything, she put him on her shoulder and take him for a walk, and he loves being outside and he will quiet down. She said, I'll take him on a walk. He'll be quiet. So, otherwise, all you would have heard would have been a screaming.
Oh, right. Well, tell your wife that we hate that we weren't able to meet her, but maybe next time, because I think I'm supposed to. I'll probably interview you again on my own podcast. I mentioned that. If not, first word here, we'll get into that. But thanks so much, and I'm gonna go ahead and.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you.
It was an honor. It was an honor.
I appreciate you guys' time this evening.
No problem.